Your body doesn't know the difference between an actual threat and one you're imagining or remembering. That's why our chest tightens, our breath shortens, our mind spirals before anything even happens. Right? It's why you can give yourself anxiety today about something that's not happening until next week. Right? In this video, I want to show you how to interrupt that pattern. Right? Shift the nervous system and kind of rewire what your brain expects next. My name's Campbell. I teach a breathwork certification that really dives into the nervous system. And this is one of these pieces that I just think everybody should understand. So, if we understand this kind of hidden loop of what's occurring between this interaction of mind and body, right? Most stress, most anxiety comes not from what is, but what we fear might happen. Right? You have the presentation at work next week. What if I forget the words? I go on the date. What if it's a flop? It's like we predict into this future scenario. But what a lot of people don't understand is that my physiology reflects what is happening in my mind. And there's this process in the body called anticipatory ventilation. Right? What anticipatory ventilation is changes in my physiology and breathing in anticipation of a future event. Right? This is like an evolutionary throwback. We're about to go hunting. My physiology begins to kick into gear. Heart rate goes up, breathing starts to get a bit faster, pupils contract, right? My body's preparing to go and hunt. Right? But today, a lot of the things that we're anticipating aren't physical expressions. Like I'm not going out and chasing my food. It's social situations. It's cultural expectations. Right? But my nervous system prepares for the future scenario as if it's real. If I sit and think of all of the things that could go wrong, right, which again is my brain trying to protect itself, coming up with, oh, well, maybe I can prepare for that or change this. But as I do that, I have to recognize that in the present moment begins to disrupt my physiology. Right? It begins to shift the state of my nervous system. And the sneaky thing is that my body begins to attach this present moment physiology to this future event. There's a part of the brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS. It's kind of like the filtration system. It's a little bit like the algorithm for your brain and for your reality. Right? It shows you certain things and ignores other things. And so when I think about this future event, I create a state of stress or anxiety or overwhelm or worry in my body. My brain is then anchoring this state of dysregulation to this future scenario. Right? So when I'm in that situation, here's how I should be feeling. So what I want to introduce today is a protocol, right, to not let that happen and in fact start to help your brain predicting a positive outcome. So the first thing we have to do is kind of catch the forecast, catch the prediction, right? Asking ourselves, what am I imagining going wrong, right? Is it the presentation at work? Is it the sales call? Is it the new client? Whatever it might be. And catch the fact that I'm starting to catastrophize, right? Like, what am I thinking is going to go wrong? This happens a lot. People have this anxiety of going to the doctor, right? I have the doctor's appointment on Friday, and on Monday, I'm like, ooh, I don't want to go to the doctor because I'm scared that they're going to find something, that my results have, something's been discovered or my markers are going the wrong direction, right? So I'm predicting this future event, but hey, guess what? You are not a fortune teller, nor am I. Nobody is. And so we have to catch that and be like, this is a forecast. This is a prediction. This isn't fact, right? I really love the fear versus fact, right? Is this a fear or is this a fact? If you're sitting and thinking about something that's occurring in the future, you cannot call it a fact unless you have some skills that I don't. You have to call that what it is, and it's a fear, right? The second step is kind of dropping into body and feeling this prediction, right? Notice, right, when it's like I'm worried about going to the doctor on Friday, oh, that's a fear. Come to my body. It's like my chest is tight, or my shoulders are tense, or my jaw is clenched, or I'm holding my body in a certain way, or my breathing is erratic and shallow, right? Notice those things as these kind of correlates, right? These markers of this thought, this prediction, this imagination, right, is causing this disruption in my body. Identify what that disruption is, right? Then we begin to shift the state, right? So we kind of catch the forecast, we feel the forecast, and then we work to shift the state. So whatever it is that I identified, right, my breathing is shallow, my jaw is clenched, my fists are tight, whatever it is that I noticed, right, was the expression of what's happening in my body based on what I'm thinking. It's like unravel it. If my jaw is clenched, I release it. If my shoulders are tense, I drop them. If my eyebrows are furrowed, I soften them. You get the picture. As we do this, we also begin to use the breath. right? We slow the breath. We find this gentle rhythm, right? Where my breath is smooth, steady, and in control. Now, what's happening here is I'm literally transforming my physiology, right, through awareness. When I relieve tension, change posture, adapt a bit different breathing pattern, now I'm sending different signals back through the body. So what we've done is we've created an association, or we've created a state of calm. And now the final step is we want to anchor this to the future scenario, right? So I revisit that same imagined event, right? The doctor's appointment on Friday. Now that I'm in this new state of safety, of calm, right, of balance, I'm anchoring this to this future scenario, right? So that reticular activating system, the RAS, is now been kind of programmed with the information that, hey, when we're sitting in that doctor's clinic, right, in the waiting room, this is what we should be feeling. Calm presence, self-assurance, confidence, whatever it might be, right? So we're creating a kind of embodied prediction. This is super important to understand. This is the difference between me just kind of telling myself a story about how something's going to go and creating, right, the embodied version of that. So understanding this as a mechanism, right? Like this isn't some woo-woo manifestation visualization thing. This is neurobiology. You're just interrupting a faulty prediction cycle, right? And that is what my nervous system loves to do. It loves to predict, right? That's why it's worried that you're going to forget your words in the presentation. That's why it's worried that you're going to make a fool of yourself on the date that you're going on, right? It is trying to predict what is going to happen. But in that moment, what we have control over is our physiology, right? Is the impact that that prediction is having on my biology. And then we kind of work to reverse engineer the state that they want to feel. So it's like, oh, that worry about the doctor is attached to a clenched jaw, tight shoulders, shallow breath, right? I relax my jaw, I drop my shoulders, I slow and deepen my breath. And then I keep coming back to predicting that future scenario. I'm going to feel like this when I'm waiting for the doctor, right? I'm going to walk out of that clinic with a sense of relief, right? What does relief feel like? So we're practicing the feeling in our body that we want to associate with the future event, right? We're literally anchoring this physiological state that we've created through awareness, postural adjustment, breathing adjustment, and we're anchoring that to this future scenario so that the filtration system of my brain, right, of my reality, the reticular activating system, is now scanning for evidence. Oh, wait, right, this clinic, this waiting room, oh yeah, we're meant to feel calm, generate calm. Versus what a lot of people are doing is like, from Monday through Friday, right, in anticipation of that doctor's appointment, they are practicing anxiety. They are practicing worry. They are practicing the feeling of like, bad news. So what happens when they sit in that clinic waiting room, right, is they generate what they've practiced. Over and over and over again, they've practiced the dysregulated physiology and state that is accompanied by this environment of like being and waiting for the doctor. And so this is such a powerful tool because we do this all the time. Right? Just to share a story of a client that I had recently, right? It was telling me they had to take a flight from the US to Australia, long flight. They'd done it in the past, and they always got super antsy and anxious at about 10 or 11 hours, right? 3 or 4 hours to go on the flight. And they were super worried. They're like, I think I'm going to have a panic attack. I don't know how it's going to go. And just watching them telling, like at that point on the flight, so predicting future scenario, right? 10 hours into the flight, what if I have a panic attack, right? And I would watch the change in posture, the change in facial expression, of vocal tone, of breathing, right? And they're literally conditioning themselves, say at that point, 10 hours into the flight, we should feel like this, impending doom, anxiety, panic coming. And so what we did to unravel this is exactly what I've explained in this video, right? Is, hey, are you going to look at your watch at 10 hours? Is it going to be the little airplane screen? What seat are you sitting in, right? So like predicting this future event from an embodied state of calm, right? So using practices like resonance frequency breathing or coherence breathing, right? Or just slow, steady nasal breath, relaxed posture, and then going through this visual, right? Sitting in my chair, I'm in 47A, and I'm going to watch a couple of movies or whatever it might be. Like at that point in the flight, still feeling calm, shoulders are relaxed, right? And conditioning yourself to feel like that. So think of the difference now. We've got a few weeks until the flight. Path A is every time I think about the flight, I worry about what if I have a panic attack, What if that ruins the trip? What if I don't sleep? It's like, and I practice what that brings with it, this agitation, apprehension, fear, uncertainty, anxiety, right? That energy is cultivated in the body every time I think of this future flight. Or path two is I catch myself, I'm forecasting, right? I'm predicting, the flight's going to be terrible. I feel what's happening in my body because I've been thinking about this flight that I don't want to be on. It's going to be too long. Here are these correlates in my body. I kind of unravel them, relax, soften, drop, ease into the breath and the body, and then I come back to the flight. And I go back. I don't ignore it and avoid it. I embody how I want to feel as I go through this kind of almost visual checklist. Where am I going to be sitting? Who am I going to be talking to? What am I going to be feeling? And every time I then think of the flight over the coming weeks, right, I catch myself and I course correct. A very different outcome when we get to the end of that, right? One person has a panic attack on the flight and the other person scoots to that flight and goes, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, right? Like they had literally practiced and embodied and cultivated the state that they wanted to be on that flight. So if you are someone that struggles with this feeling of anxiety, stress, fear, overwhelm in the moment from predicting a future outcome. What if they say that? What if this happens? What if I lose my job? What if I don't get the pitch? Blah, 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 blah. All the stories that we're always telling all the time. So I want you to identify what impact is that having on me today in the present moment, right? Because your body is going to generate the state that it deems appropriate to deal with the threat that you're thinking about. Again, body not that great, or brain not that great at telling the difference between something you're conjuring up in your mind, which hasn't yet happened, or something that's happening right now, right? It is only going to respond to the input, right? The fear, the uncertainty, and it's going to generate a sympathetic response, some cortisol, right? My heart's going to elevate. But that long term, right? Day by day, every time I think about it, just creates a bigger disruption of physiology. And it anchors that disrupted physiology to that future state. So people oftentimes are literally writing their own script, right? For that future thing to go poorly, because that is what they practiced. So I invite you, right, to consider where you might be falling prey to this future scenario generating present moment disruption, and how you can kind of take this model of one, catch it, right? Identify what's going on, the forecast or the prediction, feel it, right? Notice where it is in your body. What are you doing as a response to that prediction? Shift it, right? Relax, release, restore a nice, gentle, steady breath, and then anchor it back into that future scenario, right? These type of breath-based tools are so powerful, right? Because so many people struggle with these patterns, these cycles. Right? If you're a practitioner and you work with clients that perhaps struggle with stress or anxiety, I'd love you to check out the video below. Let me introduce you to functional and therapeutic breathwork. Really a nervous system-centric approach to how breath can be used as a tool to support the systems of our body, to support the individual, the person, rather than focus on the pathology. If you're a practitioner, check it out below. Otherwise, see you in the next video.